Hi everybody, welcome to the Man Alone Solo RPG YouTube channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at a new tactical strategy battle game by Alex T, set in the Ker Nethalas universe, Carnage Aether, Revenants of Veldonia. And let me just say up front that if you like crunch and you like the combat aspect of solo games, you need to be getting hype about this game. By the time I post this, it should be out and available to pick up. And it is, look at the Black Oath Entertainment website for more info, and check this out, the new Black Oath logo right down here in the bottom left. And on the cover, and I thought this was pretty cool, it has a picture of your mom. Yeah. Video's over. This was all just set up to do that. All right, I'm kidding. Okay, so Carnage and Aether in the same universe as Ker Nethalas. This is shaping up to be a grimdark universe, the way I like it. Underground of the city, we have in Veldonia is Ker Nethalas, this series of tunnels filled with horrors beyond your wildest dreams. And then above ground, we're not doing much better because there is a cart filled with people condemned to death, rolling to God knows where. And when they get out, instead of finding the chopping block, they find some grizzled old man who tells them, well, you're revenants, you're something between life and death, and you're going to fight in this arena. And if you can make it out alive, then you can have your soul back, because these revenants aren't just like, they're not called that because, you know, they're condemned. They're called that because even the gods have placed this judgment on them. And so they have to fight through many layers of monstrosities to earn their freedom. I'm excited about the fact that this is in this universe, because I think this is where the true wellspring of creativity, of new ideas, is going to come from. When you have the constraints of a fictional universe within those constraints, I feel like that is where the ideas start to weave together, they start to intersect with each other, they start to reach something higher. And so now, it is a crunch bar of a game, and if you follow the channel for a while, you know I'm not great at playing crunch games, and we'll maybe take a better attempt at that when I get the physical game. But this is, I wanted to get the word out about this now, and thank you, Alex, for giving me the opportunity to be one of the first to show this to everybody, because I know that some of you out there, this is exactly the itch that you needed scratched. So again, it is this tactical arena battles in the world of Ker Nethalas, and it is like, the game is centered around combat as the main mechanic. So if you're somebody who finds yourself in solo RPGs, in any tabletop game, just going like, come on, I want to get to the next fight, this is the game for you, because it's going to have other mechanics while you're like in between combat, and you're going to have a patron who you can earn favor from and fulfill different quests. But combat is where it's at in this game. There are, I think, 7 different types of combat. There's a death match, like a control mode where you have to sort of, it's like almost like a capture the flag type thing, or maybe that's not the word for it, but you got to like control a position and fight people off. And so tons and tons of options and customizability, and it's pretty incredible. This is 242 pages of just straight up throwing axes into dudes' heads. Doesn't get much bloodier and better than that. For this game, you're basically going to use the the whole team, but it's going to be focused a lot on D10s. It is a D100 or percentile roll, equal to or under 2 for success. And it's really growing on me. I have to say that. When I first started playing tabletop, I did not like D100 games, because I don't know why. I just thought, like, my dumb brain was like, higher numbers, too difficult, too hard. And now I'm like, wow, this like makes so much logical sense. I especially like it. Check out this new magnetic dice tray I've got here. I especially like using the dyadic D20 for this because a lot of it is going to, like, advantage, for example, is going to be using the higher of the 2 D10s. And so usually when you're rolling D10s, you're going to have one that's a double digit. And maybe you're better at math than me or just thinking in general, but any extra digits that I have to deal with in my head start making me confused. And so this would be like a roll of a 73 using this. I like this, the dyadic D20, because they're 20-sided, so they have a nice roll to them, but then they're filled in and empty. And so I just do black is before and red is right after. I'm not saying that's a good mnemonic device. It just really works for me. And so I say the number before is black, the number right after is red, and right there you have a 22. And lucky ducky, I rolled doubles, and so if you roll doubles, that is either going to be a crit success or I guess a crit failure if you roll doubles and you're above the marked number. But we'll talk about that a little bit more. And these are available from the same Tower House Creative, same creator of the Fate Mill. They turn out to be the ones I use the most, and the Fate Mill, this is not an ad for Fate Mill, but what the hell, why not? Is in this special. Quietus. Okay, so building a character, you're not gonna be any dummy. You're not gonna be any geek off the street. You got to be handy with the steel, if you know what I mean. Earn your keep. Revenants. Okay, so yeah, so you're 3 months in a cell, and then you get shipped off. You think you're going to the chopping block, but then basically you get out and they're saying, hey, guess what? You're essentially in arena. You're going to be like a gladiator fighting to the death. And so there's a D20, who were you? And I rolled a 7, a scholar, so I knew I was screwed. However, the scholar does have plus 10 medicine right from the start. And then what crime was I accused of? I rolled an 8, and it was treason. So I'm not very liked by those in power. I'm a treasonous scholar. I must have posted something that said I did a bunch of experiments, and it turns out that kings are stupid heads. I want to point out that a lot of the rules are going to be, as far as, you know, like combat and stuff, are going to be very, very similar to Ker Nethalas. In fact, a lot of the character customization options are going to be similar as well. And after you figure out who you were and why you got thrown in the prison cell in the first place, look at that. You are then going to start calculating your stats. And as for me, let's see if we can get a little bit of zoom in. There we go. I had 19 health. I had really good rolls on this because health is D6 plus 15. And then your ether is, now this is, ether is your spiritual and psychic power. It was D6 plus 10 for me. And I was able to actually, I rolled a 6, so I had a 16, and then due to some other, oh yeah, character training. Let's take a look here at this. Due to your character's past, they will have a preference towards having worked their bodies or their minds, and you can assign extra +5 to health or +5 to ether. Since my character was a scholar, I tried to stay consistent with that, and so I added the 5 to ether. So I started with 21 ether and 19 health. And then skill-wise, your skill can never go over 80 under natural circumstances, though gear and mastery can push it over that. Your skills are pretty general: acrobatics, athletics, dodge, endurance, medicine, resolve, stealth, armor-piercing weapons. That is not a skill. You also have magic resistance, which is like your defense stat for magic, and some other cool options here like favor of the crowd, if the crowd likes you, momentum, determination, dedication. You spend dedication points when you choose your different skill tree, like specialties, your masteries, so to speak. Early on, you know, choosing a level 1 mastery, that's going to cost you next to nothing. I think it's like costs you 5 per mastery or whatever. But as the game goes on, let me widen this out just a little bit here. Oh, that's not right. There we go. Okay, didn't do anything. As the game goes on, the masteries they go up to level 5. They start to cost more dedication. And I really like this system. Basically what it means is early on, you could try out a bunch of different masteries, right? They're not that cheap. When we get to level 2, it gets a little bit more expensive. And there are ways to get more dedication. You got to win combat, you got to complete quests, etc. But it's not that easy to come by. And so you're going to be spending lots of dedication for those higher level skills, which means that as time goes on, you can't be a jack of all trades. You have to start to specialize in certain areas, or else you're just not going to have the dedication to keep building your character out. Starting gear wise, you could choose any weapon you want. This is an early print, so I think this might have been a little error. It says page 194. It's actually, I think, page 200. We have lots and lots of options for weapons here. And the stats for them are pretty basic because and that's good because there's other things that we're going to be using these for. So every single weapon has a type of damage, a skill that is used to test like a successful hit for them. So for instance, I chose a meteor hammer. You can choose any of these to start, any non-magical ones. And so that gave me a plus 60 in whips and chains. Is it possible to say that without thinking of ludicrous? Okay. And then, everything is a D6, but the weapons have the different damage type will give you benefits to, like, for instance, bludgeoning, subtracts 1 from enemy armor. Whether it is, if you get a sword, they have the parrying, which means that you can attempt to parry instead of a dodge. And they have a range for how far they go, and you can, the starting speed as well. If you get that, it can add or subtract from your speed. So for instance, a great axe here is going to be a nice big slash, but it's a minus 10. And so really customizing gear, adding abilities to gear and building it out is going to be more important than the actual gear itself. And I'm sorry, earlier I said you could choose any non-magical thing. You could actually choose any non-ranged weapon, or I think it might be black powder weapon. Let's see here. Weapon of your choice, firearms excluded, right? This grants Revenants a starting score bonus to the corresponding weapon skill of plus 60. And if a PC takes a ranged weapon, you get ammo with it. Then you get armor of your choice. And just having any armor gives you plus 50 to endurance, plus 10 to athletics, a light helmet, that's plus 40 to resolve, gloves, plus 10 to medicine, and then boots, which are going to give you 20 to acrobatics, dodge, and stealth. You also get 2 rings, which have this mastery sigildry property to them. And what that's going to do is allow you to choose 2 masteries when you start, which is a nice way to start because right after this, you're going to get into your first match against some skeletal horrors. So even before that, I had to choose like what kind of character I wanted to be, like what my masteries were. And like I said, the masteries were, I think, point for point the same as Ker Nethalas. I don't want to say that for sure, but like for instance, Abyssal Reaver, I think, let me just find the page here instead of dilly-dallying. So yeah, Abyssal Reaver on 220. Kind of sent me a little bit. Yeah, there's probably a little bit of a difference here between the print and the PDF, but that's okay. So yeah, like Abyssal Reaver, you have like these tier 1 actions. It's a standard action, or I'm sorry, a tier 1 mastery. And that's only going to cost me 5 dedication to take that on. And anything that has that mastery sigildry thing on it gives me the ability to do that. It costs 4 ether. It's automatically debited from your ether account. And so you don't have to roll to do it. You only have to roll for the damage. So for instance, this Infernal Flame would be D6 plus D4. Because I was a scholar, I chose some masteries that were aligned with that. So I took Arcanist. You've studied everything there is to know about the etheric realm and how it manifests in the physical world, granting you superb knowledge and control over the arcane. I thought that worked well with Scholar, because I just didn't want to think of my guy as a geek who was like, trying to fix APA citations. So this would be a standard action for 4 ether, range 6, and you can add 2 more ether to get it to hit more creatures, and it's d4 plus 1 arcane damage. I also chose Zealot, I think. I love being a Zealot in any game. That's a great way to build around my character, just make them like this unreasonable, totally committed. Let me just see really quick. I just want to see if all of these are the same. Just running backwards here. Zealot, yep. Wrathspawn, Wraith, yeah, these look like the same. Weapon Master, Umbra, Phantom. So yeah, I'm betting you that you can port your characters over as long as it would make sense in the story. So yeah, so I chose Zealot, which gave me this nice ability to bless my weapon for d4 damage for 10 rounds, which was really nice because holy damage is going to work on the undead, and the first combat you have is going to be against these undead skeletons, which I think is really cool the way he did this. I wish every game would do this, which is just to put people right into combat and use that as sort of a tutorial, okay? Let's see here. So yeah, we're almost ready to do our first match, but of course we have to learn some of the rules. Now, I'm not going to be able to go over all of the rules because it's a crunchy game, right? But I will say this, even though there are a lot of rules comparatively, there was no point in which I was reading the rules thinking like, oh, this is too difficult for me to do. It wasn't a matter of that at all. Which is, I think, a real accomplishment to make the rules so that they are very, very specific and customizable, but not anything that you're like, oh, I don't even get it. I don't even understand that, right? So you have these difficulty modifiers when you're doing a roll. If it's really easy, you add plus 30 and minus 30 if it's impossible. And again, this is the D100 system where you want to roll equal to or under. Opposed checks, you could do it mano y mano with a PC or an NPC. And then these are just examples of critical successes or failures for each of the skills. And again, a crit success or failure is going to happen when you roll doubles above or below your target mark. Advantage or disadvantage, you are going to choose the higher of the results to make that determination. Now, actually, this would be red is after. So yeah, that would be a 0. But if a 0 came up on here, how does that? Yeah, that would actually be 100, right? No, that would be a 0. That'd be a straight up 0. Whereas here, so how would I get 100? 100 would be rolling a 1 and a 0, right? I think that's right. Let me think about that for 10 hours. Why think about it when somebody else can tell you how to think? So basically, this is the dyadic D20 instructions, and it says, for D100, use the black die for 10s and reds for 1s. The result is 4 on black and 3 on red is 43. Note, zeros are 0, not 10, and a roll of 0, 0 is 100. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, glad we cleared that up. And then using mastery abilities, you would only do a check for those that specifically call for one. Otherwise, just spending the ether would do it, and it counts for whatever action it counts for. Usually it's a standard action, or if it's something that has more permanence, you sort of cast it and it uses as long as it needs to. Now, usage die, I love usage die, and I don't care who knows. I'll climb upon a mountain and say it to the world. I love usage die. It'll be like that scene in Last Action Hero where Tywin Lannister shoots a guy and says, I have just shot someone in the middle of the street. And he's in New York and everyone goes, shut up. Anyway, so usage die, how this starts is, this is just a less granular but easier to manage way of marking a finite resource rather than say like ammo. Rather than saying, oh, I have 464 shots of ammo. And then every time I shoot, well, I fired off 13 rounds, so 464 minus 13. Instead, you start with a die level. So for instance, a D20, Ooh, okay, that would be an example of something that would bring me down a die level. So I start with a D20 level of ammo, and every time I use my gun, I roll until, wow, that's great, until I roll a 1 or a 2, then I go down to the 1 die lower. So I go to a D12, and now every time I use the ammo, I roll until I get a 1 or a 2, right? And so there's a 1. Now I go down to a D10, and I roll that until I hit a 1 or a 2. And so having a D20 die would be like, you have a lot of something, a lot, because it's usually like this, right? And I mean, think about this. This isn't even me. This is me just rolling over and over and over again. Instead, it would be every time I use my weapon, now I hit a 2, I go down to an 8, a 6, a 4. And then when you hit a 1 or a 2 on the 4, you're either out of your thing, or if the usage die is tracking some sort of threat, which is another great usage of a usage die, then that threat or whatever happened would trigger. So I think usage die is great, and let's see it in more games. So attack check, simple, D100, and compare it to the combat skill. So yeah, this is like, you know, in Dragonbane, if you're using a sword, you have a sword skill. You would just, you know, roll against your sword skill. In a combat, you have a maintenance phase where every effect hits you for whatever it's going to hit you for, bleeding, poisoned, etc. And then negative modifiers to taking more than 1 reaction in the same round, reset back to 0. Okay, so you have these reactions that can happen if your character is right next to an enemy and they want to disengage, for example. They have to roll to see if they're going to get hit. And if they do that again in a round, sometimes that happens like multiple times with one move, right? If I have a guy who is like surrounded, this is my guy, and he's surrounded on 3 sides by these enemies, and then he moves back, he would have 3 people that are going to try and do an attack of opportunity. And so, you know, I think it would be dodge here. You would roll your dodge for that. Okay, success, you would have to subtract 20 from the target number each time you do that. So it gets harder and harder to dodge multiple things at the same time. Okay. And then you have the action phase, then the round is over. Initiative, it's kind of interesting. Initiative is a combination of several different skills. As soon as the match begins, the first thing that you must determine is who gets to strike first. You roll a D100 for each side, applying the gear modifiers. So, for instance, if you have like a really light sword, that might give you +10. Whoever wins the initiative check gets to act first, and that goes on sides. So whatever team goes first. And this is the modifiers here, or shall we say, I think that it's called maneuverability. Maneuverability is actually what combines a lot of different things into one. So let me find that. Yeah, I actually had that slightly backwards. So maneuverability is a combination of dodge, acrobatics, and stealth and initiative. So if you have something that reduces your maneuverability, you need to reduce it by all of those things. So maneuverability captures a lot of those things all in one. And that is just an example of how much your gear and what you're wearing and the choices about that are going to be important going into battle, because these stats can have a deep implication, I guess you might say. But as far as initiative, that's pretty much going to stick throughout the combat in terms of like who goes first. And I think that it is something that for at least the first few moves, it depends how many characters and what their speed is, which is, you know, how many squares they can move. But for the first few moves, because you're kind of like working in an arena, you're going to have to move across the arena because you're always starting on the far sides of it. Do I have? Oh, okay. I thought my camera was off. You're starting on the far sides of it, and so you're going to have to like move to get into the middle. I think the arena is 17 by 25. I could be wrong. There's also things like terrain that slow you down. There's also facing. There's certain abilities that can change the facing that you have. And all movement is orthogonal. So it has to be up, down, left, right. You can't move diagonally, and you always face the direction that you're moving in. So you're probably seeing now, right now, as I say that, there's some of you that might be like, no, I can't do it. And then some of you that are saying, finally, a game where I'm actually able to take these things into account. Boy, howdy, is this the game for you? We also have line of sight. And so say that we have several different, say that we have some obstacles between two characters. I'll use my severed books, Borg-like bastards here. So let's just say that this is my guy. And then we have my target is over here. And we have here. The line of sight is, to do a ranged attack, it's going to have to go through two pieces of cover. And based on the cover rules, it's not blocked by other characters, but it is blocked by this cover. And so for each thing of cover, it's going to make it more difficult for you to complete that shot. There's partial cover and full cover. And then I also like that there is stamina is how you're going to determine how many moves you can make. Now you start the game with 10 stamina, and different actions cost different levels of stamina. There are free actions, but rather than just being like move and attack, which probably early on it will go like that sometimes, you can use up all of your stamina. And stamina is regenerated every round. So for example, if you wanted to sprint or do an additional movement, you spend 3 stamina per square. If you want to charge, which is like a 2 squares and then an attack, that's all 10 of your starting stamina. Most standard actions are 5, and then there's a list for all of these different things you can do for standard actions, including focus, which you can kind of save up, and your next attack gets plus 20, so it'll be a higher chance that you're going to make a hit. I never use a lot of these things in game, like in Dragonbane, there's grapple. I never use grapple. I should use these things, but, and so, yeah, there is tons of, different things that can happen outside of the normal, like, okay, I hit you. Okay, now you missed me. Okay, now I hit you. So first of all, there is an entire matrix that looks exactly like the type of thing that I could get stressed out about if I was playing. But again, I think that for a lot of people, this kind of thing is going to be just awesome, right? So we have, say that the roll is, your attack roll is equal to or lesser than the skill score and is not doubles. And then the defender is the same. This is what you do. So it's basically like I attack, you defend, and there are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 different options, right? Because you can have people who one fails, one succeeds, one succeeds, one fails, the other fails, one succeeds, the other succeeds. And then one succeeds with a crit, and then the other person fails with a crit, and so all of those different things are all very intuitive as you think them out, but this would definitely be a page that you would want to print and laminate as you're playing. And then on some of these, you could see that the result is the attack misses, and then the attacker gets a defensive move. And so there are these defensive and offensive moves that come up that you'll get to use. They're D10s, and they're sort of like, they give you a little bit more of an advantage, say, if you are, if you defend and the character fails, you'll roll this. Say you roll an 8 here, you press your advantage, reducing your opponent's next defensive check by minus 20. And so the next time around, it's going to be easier for you to give, as my grandpappy would say, give them a what for. Okay. We have range attack modifiers for if it's a large target. They're on full cover, partial cover. Spell attacks ignore cover and armor. And then there is also, after you hit, you're going to roll for a hit location. So for instance, this undead skeleton is going to be your first enemy at the outside of the game. They are going to be a humanoid. And so you can also see that these skeletal horrors, yeah, they're humanoid, and all humanoids, their crit spot is their head. So if you hit them on their head, that is going to do additional damage. And you can sort of see from this sheet right here just how this combat is going to go, is that when they attack, their actions, you'll roll a d6, and that will be one of these actions here, which will have different effects on your player. And of course, there are defensive moves for both a player character and an NPC. Once you know, on a human, pretty much if you don't hit them on the head, you're not going to get that crit, but you could disable the use of one of their arms, which will then decrease their ability, I think, by 5 to use whatever weapon is in that arm if they're dual wielding. Okay. Then for damaging, it's going to be derived based on the die roll. And you can see on the bottom right here, it's like if you roll a 5, that does 2 damage. And this is part of why I tried to imagine myself, you know, as I was like playing just like kind of a sample round by myself just to prepare for the video. I was trying to consider or think about like, I always try to think to myself, what is going to be hard for me to explain? What is going to be hard for me to remember? And it was at this point where I was like, I think I'd be doing the world a disservice if I tried to do this on camera, because it would be about a 5-hour video that I get through very little, because this is the kind of thing that is a little bit hard for me. I like doing it. It just takes me a long time, and it's just not in my skill set. Usually I prefer games that are somewhere between this and narrative. And if it's totally narrative, I don't like it. And if it's totally crunchy, I love it, but I'm just not good at it. But I'm getting better, and these are the kind of games that are making me better at it. There's also elite enemies that have an advanced damage table. There's different damage types that are going to hit certain characters differently. You're going to take armor into effect. The armor has an integrity value that you're going to have to keep track of and reduce when you hit. And then when it loses integrity, they're not going to have that armor damage anymore. When you fumble, rolling a double on your attack, for instance, or any skill, you're going to have to roll on the fumbles table, and the NPCs the same. Then you start having AoE, burst effects. This is how cover works, how dual wielding, and you can see on the top that there is this exhaustion. Oops, let me show that here. There is this exhaustion meter right here, and you can push yourself during combat. Sometimes you have to use exhaustion, but usually you make the choice for it. And each time it reaches a circle, like you could see, at first it's like 4 squares to a circle, and then it gets lower and lower. You gain a shock. All right. And if you reach a final circle on the track, you get 5 shock, and then it's reset. And so shock can be, you can actually go into like a state of shock, which is monitored or tracked right there. Every different, to pay for exhaustion is going to have different costs. And so, like right here, you can rack up 1 to 5 exhaustion and gain stamina, or for a lot more, you can gain ether, or you can gain initiative for a round if you spend 3. And so this is something, yet another thing that is, there's just so many options for how you want to attack. And this is the kind of thing you wish you had in a game that is very straightforward, of like, now you hit me, now you hit me, now I hit you, now you hit me, where you just feel like, geez, my weapon sucks, their weapon is great, I'm out of magic points, I have no options. This is just not going to happen in this game, because there's so many risk and reward setups that can happen here. Shock. As the exhaustion and mental weariness of a fight accumulates, you accrue shock. At certain thresholds, you'll suffer a series of consequences. And so based on how much shock you have accrued, you're going to have different physical effects. So you really got to measure out if you want to use that exhaustion. Different things have different sources of shock. And this is where I think it has a really awesome verisimilitude, because first of all, I like that every attack is rooted in a D6. Now you can upgrade that through different gear or different masteries and stuff. But essentially, I like the fact that it's like, yeah, if you get hit with a freaking hammer and you get hit with a sword, one of them is not going to do double damage. They're both going to like break your skull, right? And so I think that that's really cool, and it's more about getting that good hit in. You have lots of conditions. If you're bloodied, which means that you're at 50% of your max health, you can get an advantage that makes you sort of rally and strike. You can also get a disadvantage. Critical hit tables for each type of hit: arcane, acid, bludgeoning. You have knockback, you have fire, force, all of these different things. And then I also just want to show the different, so this is what the actual arena would look like here. And you'll see like these circles, and this is where everybody would start on both the left and the right side. And just check out these different types of matches here. I just have to scroll through this. So unless it's directed, the match 1 to 10 is a normal match. And then you can have these different events during the match. But yeah, here it is, 1 to 8. You have a death match, control, endless assault, elemental vortex, massacre, pain storms, or wandering beacon. So those are all different like objectives in the match. And then you can roll if there is a match event. There could be a fog of pain. Don't you just hate it when you're trying to have a regular arena match to the death? There are tons and tons of enemies in here. Yeah, this is the one I was talking about. This like control point in the center, and you want to be the only team with one or more characters inside the control point. At the end of the round gives you 3 victory points, and you'll have to rack up a certain amount of victory points, or the team with the most victory points ends. Endless assault, elemental vortex, a death match. That's probably the simplest one. A massacre match, a pain storms match, a wandering beacon match. So you could probably even come up with your own type of matches in that as well. Then finally, we have the downtime phase. And this will be the time where you will kind of see what your injuries are. You'll take a look at downtime events. There can be different things that happen in the arena or with the combatants, your gear, your masteries, training. You can craft stuff. Let's take a look at a sample downtime event here. What is this, like a D66? Oh no, it's a D20. Okay. 14. You gain crucial intelligence about your next opponent's weaknesses. You have advantage on the first 3 actions. Awesome. Training. And then you have this patron system where you have specific patrons, and they can bestow more favor on you, but they'll make requests. Slay. So this is like achievements. You know, slay 10 opponents without taking any damage. Dramatic achievements have more of a narrative component to them. You can get a sigil from a tattooist. You can also get them from like gear, but I guess that if you get a tattoo, you can, what does it say? Imbue you with the power of up to 5 different mastery abilities. Awesome. So yeah, these are all different favor perks, and this is the amount of enemies in the arena. So again, I think that if you're somebody who this is right up your alley, and I know that there are many of you that this is exactly what the doctor ordered. This is going to be an awesome addition to Ker Nethalas. We'll make sure that we do a little bit of a page through the book at some later time too, when we have a physical copy. But this just, it's just incredible what Alex was able to do here, which was to take a system that a lot of people are already familiar with, add these new aspects to them, add this new story to it. And I have a feeling that going forward, you know, you're really going to be able to take your character across these different these different places in this universe. And, I always think about like the campaign to end all campaigns, the campaign that you play for years. And much like people say about 4 AD, 4 Against Darkness, the real pleasure of it is that there's just these books keep coming, and there's new events, and there's new gear, and there's new talents, and there's new companions. And so I think Alex is developing this as well. And it's very exciting. So check out Carnage and Aether, Revenants of Valdonia. If for when you play it, let me know what you think. Let me know if the combat is as rad as it looks like it should be. And if you are a CRUNCHbar, please out yourself. I need to know who the CRUNCHbars are among us. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and please pick up Carnage and Aether, or Ruthless Heavens, Boundless Fates is also pretty damn awesome as well. So that's it for today. Bye. Ooh, I gotta add new. There's new people that I'm gonna add you. I think someone joined today. I'm gonna add you. Don't worry about it. I promise. It's a promise.